Hey traders, welcome to another episode of Weekly Market Predictions. In this week's video, we're going to take a look at the top 5 major pairs and at the major levels of structure that we're going to be paying attention to for trading opportunities. I'm also going to do some really detailed analysis on the euro dollar for you guys this week, coming up right after the intro and disclaimer. So if that sounds like something you'll enjoy, then make sure to go ahead and click that like button for me if you don't mind, to help support the channel. If you're new, go ahead and click that subscribe button to make sure you're alerted whenever we come out with new Forex weekly market prediction videos. We do a video like this each Monday. That euro dollar analysis coming up right after the intro and disclaimer, so I'll see you guys on the other side. So let's go ahead and get this detailed analysis started here on the euro dollar. And what we're going to talk about is structure and trend and how we can actually predict what could happen next on a specific currency pair based around levels of structure. So here on the euro dollar chart, you can see that we have a market that started creating new highs starting down here and new higher lows. New higher high, new higher low, new higher high, new higher low until we got to the 1.2060 area. That area proved to be an area the market could not get past. We pushed up, pushed back down, pushed up, and then back down, and once more back down. So after this top was formed, the market actually pushed down, breaking below support. Now this, in fact, is our first hint that the market could be changing direction. Previously, we were in an uptrend, and so this specific situation where the market starts to break support levels can hint that there's going to be a reversal in trend. So that's what was telling us that this market could possibly head lower, and we actually had a trade based on these weekly market prediction videos right here from this area. We called a little bit of profit last week right out of the 1.1872 zone. And what we just discussed about structure and trend is the reason we decided that that place would be a good point to actually look for a shorting opportunity. The market was in a condition that told us it could possibly reverse trend and then gave us an entry reason at a key point of structure. Now last week we talked about what we would be looking for out of this market if we actually did break below our 1.1686 zone. So I'm going to play you guys a clip from last week's video talking about that. It'll be a very short clip and then I'll be right back. But if this market breaks below that area, then we have a long ways to go down all the way to the 1.1453 area for our next level of major support. And through this area is when we'll be looking for shorting opportunities on the way down. And if we get down to that 1.1453, that's where we'll look for another. All right, guys, so that's what we talked about last week on this pair. And as you can see, we have now actually broke below that level. What we were talking about last week is waiting for some opportunities to go short on the euro dollar after breaking below this major level of structure support. So that's exactly what we'll be looking for the remainder of the week. Now, those opportunities can come either from this market pushing back up into the 1.1686 area, then giving us a reason to go short by giving us some kind of entry reason, or we could see this market continue down without giving us that much of a pullback and possibly putting in some simple patterns down here on lower time frames. But currently we're waiting on this market to get down to the 1.145 area, and we will be looking for shorting opportunities on the euro dollar all the way down to that area. So that's some detailed analysis here on the euro dollar. We'll go ahead and change the color of this line to red and talk about all of our new levels of support and resistance for this pair. So as for resistance, we just talked about it. It is the 1.1686 area. That's the first level of resistance we'll be taking a look at to get a shorting opportunity out of this pair. If the market breaks above that level, we'll be looking at the 1.1872 zone. That'll be our next zone for a shorting opportunity. Now as for support, we do need to draw in one more line here. And the first level that I see is right in there for our next level support. The reason being because this is the level that acted as resistance multiple times in the past and could now act as support if the market gets down to that level. So for support, we're looking at our first level being the 1.1453 level. If we take a shorting opportunity, this is where the second targets for that trade will possibly be. And if we get down all the way to this level, we'll be looking for a counter trend long opportunity from that zone. Below that, we're going to be looking at the 1.1299 level. Right around the 113 even handle for our next counter trend long opportunity out of the euro dollar. So those are the things we're paying attention to here on this pair. That's the detailed analysis I wanted to share with you guys to let you know exactly what we're looking for throughout the rest of this week on this pair. Now we'll go ahead and head through the rest of the top 5 major pairs and talk about the key levels of structure and our plans on each of those pairs throughout the rest of this week. Our next pair today is going to be the Aussie dollar, and here we are on that daily chart. Last week's analysis on this pair played out quite nicely, so I'm going to play you guys a short clip of last week's analysis and what we expected out of this Aussie dollar pair, and then I'll be right back to share this week's predictions on this pair. Expect throughout the rest of this week on this pair. So currently this market right below the 0.7819 area. If this market pulls back up and the body of that candle closes above that zone, then we'll be looking at this level as support. Yet if we close below this level, then we'll be looking at that level as resistance next. It'll be the 0.7819 level as the first level of resistance if we get to close below that level, and if the market pushes down from that level. Alright guys, so as you can see, here's that 0.7819 level. The market did end up closing right below that level, and we got that pullback on a smaller time frame right up into that level, and the market pushed down very dramatically directly afterwards. So last week's analysis playing out to a T here on the Aussie dollar. And now let's go ahead and talk about what we're expecting this week out of this pair. The first thing we need to do is change the color of these lines to resistance. Now the market is below them, and they will act as resistance, not support. And another thing we need to do is point out another level of support for this Aussie dollar pair. I like to have at least 2 levels of support below price action and 2 levels of resistance above price action. So the first level that stands out to me as possible support is right there at the 0.7584 level. The reason for that is the amount of times this level has acted as support and resistance in the past. So we'll look to that as our lowest support level. What we have currently is a market sitting around a support level at 0.7631. So for this week, this market pulls back into that level once more and gives us a counter trend entry. Then we may look at that as a long opportunity. And we could possibly see this market push up to the 0.7735 level. In that case, we'll look for some trend continuation out of this market from that zone. If we get above that, we'll be looking at the 0.7819 area as our next level of resistance. And of course, that lowest level of support that we just pointed out is the 0.7584 level. So that's what we'll be looking at and paying attention to here on the Aussie dollar for the remainder of this week. Let's go ahead and move on to our next pair. The dollar yen is another pair that we discussed in last week's weekly market predictions. And this is another pair where the analysis from last week's market predictions played out pretty nicely. Last week we discussed this 114 even handle as a level of possible resistance that we'd be looking for shorting opportunities from. As you can see, the market pulled into that area and has currently pushed down well over 100 pips from that zone. So I'll play you guys a short clip from last week's analysis on this pair, and then we'll come back to talk a little more about what we're expecting next out of the dollar yen. All the way up to that 114 even handle, and if you saw last week's video, you'll know that that 114 even handle is actually an area of resistance that we were looking for to take a short position from if we get some kind of entry reason. So that's what we're going to be paying attention to here in the immediate future on the dollar yen. For this pair, just as we were discussing a second ago, we're sitting right at the 114 even handle. This is a place we'll be looking for shorting opportunities throughout the week. Alright guys, so as you can see, the market ran right into that 114 even handle and has currently pushed down right at 100 pips from that zone. Now, what are we expecting next out of this dollar yen pair? Well, we can see this market come down into the 113 even handle right here where we had previous resistance, and we'll be looking to see if we can get some kind of buying opportunity out of that level with an entry reason. And other than that, guys, we're looking at our major levels and key levels of structure that will all still be the same as last week for this pair. So for resistance, we have the 114 even handle once more. If we get up to that level, we'll be looking for another shorting opportunity. And also for resistance, if we break above that area, we'll be looking at the 115 even handle for our next shorting opportunity on the dollar yen. For support, if the market continues to push down past this level of previous resistance, then we can see this market get all the way down to the 111.79 area around the 112 even handle. That's the first place we'll look for a buying opportunity out of this pair. And next after that is around the 110.73 area. So that's what we're looking for here on the dollar yen in the future. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the next pair, which is going to be the pound dollar. The pound dollar is going to be very similar to last week's video. We're still in the consolidation area between the 1.323 and the 1.305 zone. Last week we talked about the 1.323 area as being an area of possible resistance we could look for a shorting opportunity from, and the market did push down from that level, although we did not get an entry reason out of this pair. So as for this week, very similar to last week, we're going to be looking at resistance around the 1.3237 area. If the market pushes up to that area, that's the level we'll be looking at for shorting opportunities if we get the correct entry reason. If we break above that, we'll be looking at 1.3441 as our next level of possible resistance. Now, if this market pushes down, we'll be looking at support right here at these previous lows around the 1.3056 zone for a buying opportunity. And if we break below that area, we'll be looking around 1.2850 as our next buying opportunity on the pound dollar. Now we'll move on to our last pair for the video, which is going to be the dollar Swiss. So here we are on that dollar Swiss pair, and last week we talked about the 0.9873 area as being a possible level of resistance out of this pair. The market did come up to that level of resistance, but unfortunately just did not cooperate with our analysis and pushed even higher, also breaking above the next resistance level we had pointed out, which was 0.996, and making it all the way to this $1 even handle number. And right here at this even handle number, we had a big sell-off on the dollar Swiss. As you can see, the market was pushed up and then sucked all the way back down with that pretty big candle wick there. So considering that, I'm looking at this as resistance, and I'm considering that this market could possibly fall all the way down to the 0.9873 area. Now, because of this area is now going to be turned to blue, or support. And what we currently have is, if the market gets down to that level, we'll be looking for buying opportunities out of this pair. If we break below it, we'll be looking at 0.9740 as our next level of possible support. Now, if we head higher, we can look around this 1.0 even handle and the 0.9961 zone. This area can be an area where we look for possible shorting opportunities out of this market. And past that, if we break above that level, we'll be looking at 1.0089 as our next level of a possible trade to the downside. Alright, so if you would like to learn a little more about our style of trading and how we use these major levels of structure in order to profit from the market each week, as well as learn the strategies and discipline techniques that has helped many traders just like you go from struggling in their trading to being consistently and independently profitable, then I would definitely suggest checking out the EAP Training Program. There's a special 20% off discount link in the description below the video for that training program. I hope you all got value out of today's video. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button for us to help support the channel. Again, if you're new, make sure that you're subscribed so that you're alerted whenever we come out with these weekly market prediction videos each week. A huge part of your trading is going to be backtesting, and doing so without the proper tools like a proper backtesting spreadsheet can be very, very difficult. That's the reason we created the Spreadsheet Mastery course. So if you're someone who is interested in learning about the formulas and functions that it takes to create a proper backtesting spreadsheet, and if you'd like to get your hands on the backtesting spreadsheet that I personally use, then you can click the link in the description labeled Spreadsheet Mastery course to find out more about that. I wish you guys the best of luck in all your future trades. I hope you have a great trading week, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.